Okay, now that we saved the Western Roman Empire, I can finally get on to the Irish.
For Constantius! 1453, the fall of Constantinople, the end of an era, the end of an empire. What was the great last bastion of the great Roman Empire now falls into ruins from the said Ottoman forces under the reign of Mehmed II. The final Roman Emperor Constantine himself would later actually be, well, you guessed it, died in battle. The last recorded account of him being alive was when he actually charged into the ranks of the enemy where the fighting was thickest, and perished. With the fall of Constantinople, it's actually stated that the Eastern Roman Empire's fall later led to the rise of the Ottoman Empire. As well, with the fall of the said Eastern Roman Empire, we later get the entirety of the said era, the Renaissance. In fact, when our entire belief on the entire fall of the Eastern Roman Empire actually happened, Constantinople didn't fall overnight. It actually fell through various centuries. In fact, so many to the point that, one, there are different points in history that it could have actually happened. In fact, the fall of Constantinople could not have ever happened in our own timeline for major reasons in history. For one, there were different battles that actually could have taken place. One would also have been, well, the near-death experience of Mehmed II. So, what would happen if, say for example, if Mehmed II never rose to power, or he died in battle, or as well, the siege of Constantinople failed? Well, that's what we're going to answer. Now, to put this into a major broader view, this is what the Eastern Roman Empire looked at like in its zenith, and during the time when it was actually at its most highest power. And this was a bit before it fell. So, let's actually take this point into the history books, shall we? What we're actually going to take a look at is that of the time of the siege of Constantinople in 1453. During this battle, we could probably end up seeing one or two various type of forms in its history. One, we could actually see that Constantinople gets a lot more military aid from the said European powers, such as that from probably Spain, Portugal, and maybe even Venice. In doing so, the Eastern Roman Empire would have to actually forfeit its rights into its entire form on holdings in certain areas. In order to save the empire, we could probably see Constantine actually approve of this in order to save his empire. So, say for example, more military strength arrives, and as well maybe the cannons that were used to siege Constantinople fail or something like that. In fact, there are several ways that this could have actually happened. One is, for example, there is even the account on Constantinople's fall, was when a said guard area was left unattended, or as well a said gate was left open. So there are several ways this could have ended. So, yeah. But let's just lead all to the same point. Mehmed II fails to actually conquer the city of Constantinople, and which would later lead to a major schism and as well division and civil war. With this crisis in tow and a recession crisis, we could probably actually see the said Eastern Roman Empire taking advantage of this to their fullest intentions, to later reconquer and regain various lost grounds in the parts of both the Balkans and as well Anatolia. As well with the alliance between the Papal States, Aragon and Castile, and as well Portugal, we could probably actually see the said front and as well a reconquest system. With the Reconquista in Spain, and as well, this would actually be called for a Holy Crusade to help out the Christians of the East and the Christians of Iberia. Leading to this point that we could actually see that, well, for one, Byzantium doesn't fall, and it would slowly actually rearrange itself and rise from its own form and power. With this, we could probably actually see Venice actually gaining land in certain areas, and as well, the Byzantine Empire actually recognizes the holdings of the said Spanish throne in the region of the said Italy. In doing so, giving up its own title and claimants to the lands of the said Italian peninsula. In doing so, it is no longer the Eastern Roman Empire, it is thus simply the Byzantine Empire. However, this doesn't mean that, one, there wouldn't be a Battle of Vienna. In fact, the Great Siege of Vienna that it would actually take part in our own timeline, well, you can already see what's going to happen. By the 17th and 18th century, the Byzantines, well, they replaced the Ottomans, and in doing so, their power does stretch and as well expand. With their own military expansion, so does the Kingdom of Venice. So, what does this actually lead to? Well, for one, we could actually see the Byzantines actually conquering and as well holding off, but in doing so, they don't exactly have that major military power. For example, for having military aid from the said kingdoms of Venice, Spain, and as well Portugal, it's still the area of the East. By the time of the said colonization of the Americas, Byzantium has still taken the place of the said Ottomans. No matter what, the said Portuguese and as well the Spanish would still actually find alternate routes to Asia. So it still would lead down the same path, just in a different form. In our own form and time, we could probably even see that, one, Italy could end up actually having the same type of clash between monarchy and Spain. In doing so, Spain actually calls for the Byzantium to actually call to its aid, leading to a slight reconquest of the said region in the form of an alliance. However, sometime after this type of form, we could probably even see the said Byzantine Empire expanding itself even further towards the south and towards the east. All the while, the said people of the Ottomans are actually being forced back and as well probably even made a client kingdom. With the remilitarization of the said Byzantines, we could probably see the Byzantines becoming a major power in the eastern region. However, with the rise of Napoleon in our own timeline, things could probably lead to worse. In fact, Napoleon's conquests in our own timeline could actually lead to an entire conflict between the Byzantium and the said Napoleonic Empire. However, if we know one thing from our own history, Napoleon would still fall from power, and with this would still lead to the same outcome. Italy would slowly unify into its own form, and as much it would actually gain ground along the said with the former holdings in Venice. All the while, the Byzantine Empire actually still holds areas in the Crimean region and as well parts in the said south, along the reign of the Holy Land, being the said protectorate of the Christians in the east. However, if we know one thing from our own history books, there is also this thing called the Crimean War, where the Russian Empire becomes a major pain to the said Ottomans. Well, in replacing that with the Ottomans, the Byzantines would have to call for aid from the Western powers. This would lead to pretty much the Crimean War, and we pretty much know where this is going to go. With over time, the Russians would slowly annex the entirety of the Crimean area, and as well, with that loss, the Byzantines would slowly lose ground. However, not all is lost, as in doing so, so are the Ottomans. Even though being a said client kingdom, they could be annexed by the said Russians and probably even the Byzantines in order to actually keep to a form of peaceful unitization. In fact, all the way into the time of the 20th century, we could probably still see conflicts and wars which were gained pretty much for entire conflicts. The Byzantines actually still hold on to their lands in Anatolia and parts of the Balkans, majorly along the Greece and as well across down to the Holy Land, and as well towards the Sinai Peninsula. However, this probably is not going to end well. And you would be right. Doing so in our own timeline with the entirety of the First World War, how it began, Serbia would be the said problem. In doing so, Serbia is surrounded pretty much by both the Austro-Hungarian and the said Byzantine Empire, and would have to make an alliance with Russia just in case if it ever goes to war with either one of the superpowers. So, what would happen from this? Well, you could pretty much guess what's going to happen. There's an alliance between them, and said major war would end up taking place. World War I has begun, leading to the entire conflict as we know it today. The Byzantine Empire would still end up holding off, but as well slowly lose ground and lose its land. By the end of World War I, Byzantium has lost its land, and as well a new countries have actually emerged from its own ruins, such as Romania, as well as Yugoslavia, and parts of Albania. And in doing so, the Ottomans could probably even regain their as well, establish a foothold, and as well pretty much win their independence from the said Byzantines, but there would still be the red communists to the said north. The Ottomans, just like in our own timeline, would end up losing lands to also France and Great Britain. And in doing so, pretty much nothing would actually end up changing. The history behind it would actually still have a major Orthodox and as well Christian holdings, but as well, there would still be the same conflicts as we see today. So, not much of a change really. However, by the time of World War II, with the rise of Adolf Hitler, we could probably end up seeing a different type of cataclysmic type of conquest. Adolf Hitler's empire would slowly rise and as well invade certain areas. And pretty much you can guess all what's going to happen. There would also be the said Italian-Greco War. Benito Mussolini, wanting to recreate the great Roman Empire, would immediately try to invade certain areas. And guess who would be the major problem? That's right, it would be the Byzantines. The Byzantines would actually view the entirety of Benito Mussolini's reign as the said Roman Empire as a flawed usurper. In doing so, you could see where this is going to go. It's going to lead into an alternate version of the Greco War. However, because the Byzantines are probably a little more military manpower than it was with the Greeks, this could still lead to a major war, but in doing so, Germany has to put in more manpower in order to push back the Byzantines. But because the Byzantines are a lot more stronger with the allies of Great Britain and such, this could actually lead to a major conflict that the Axis powers cannot actually deal with. In doing so, Operation Barbarossa still takes place with the invasion of Russia, but we already know what's going to happen. It's not going to end well for the said Nazi Germany. By the end of World War II, pretty much the entire conflict still ends, and we end up getting a different variation of history. With the entirety of the former ground actually taking place, we could probably end up seeing Europe actually change over time. After the Second World War, this would actually be the outcome of the said entire conflict. The Byzantine Empire would not fall, yet it would still lose its empire and monarchy because of the modern times. However, the sole empire would still reign. The East would not fall, and it would still be the sole protectorate of the said Christians of the said East. However, what does this mean to the entirety of the history by the long run? Well, you can pretty much guess where it's going to lead to. Instead of there being a Turco-Greek war or a Syrian conflict on Cyrus and such, there is none of these conflicts, and in doing so, it also becomes part of NATO, and as well part of the NATO alliance and member of the United Nations. Still, there would be the Cold War crisis, but however, there would still be a different variation in point and tone. By the end of World War II, it is somewhat of a stopper of communism in the said region of the Balkans. What do you mean by this? Well, there's Yugoslavia for one example, and as well there are various conflicts to this point. But because the Byzantine Empire did not fall in our alternate timeline, this means there is a different story in history, yet it still stays the same. Just because the fall of the Eastern Roman Empire actually happened doesn't mean that it was the end of the entirety of history. In fact, if we take a look at this in general, the Byzantines would just take the place of the Ottomans, yet more unified. Greece and Turkey are more unified now than they would have ever been. In fact, maybe they could actually end up holding off and as well claiming and holding land after the said Second World War. Of how long they could hold this land is left to anyone's guess. But I digress. Thank you for watching. If y'all have any ideas of an alternate history scenario you want me to take a look at, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to take a look at it as soon as possible. As well, y'all, if y'all think that there was actually anything else that could have actually changed the entirety and course of this type of point in history, that of which could have never caused the fall of Constantinople, let me also know in the comments below. Anyways guys, hope to see you on the next one. Like and subscribe for more, and hope to see you all very soon.